Okay, I've got a story about synchronicity that happened to me. Um, Now, I love taking the subway, and this night I was on my way home from downtown, and I'd been doing quite a lot of reading about quantum physics and how an observer can affect the outcome of events. And I'd been reading also in this whole conscious creation movement. So I thought, why don't I do a thought experiment, right, on this train? So the thought just popped into my head just out of the blue. I mean, and so I decided that I was going to focus my thoughts on something in the train and see what would happen. So there wasn't much to look at in this car that I was sitting at, and I was sitting at the back of the car. So the bulk of the area was in front of me, and there was this one woman who had really great, beautiful red hair. So I said, okay, I'm going to focus my thoughts on her hair. It didn't make any sense at the time. I had no idea, no expectation of what might happen as a result of looking at this woman's head. So, uh, so I focus my thoughts on her hair, and I'm thinking every positive thing I can think about this woman's head. How healthy it is, how shiny it is, and all positive things. So the train is winding through the subway while I'm doing this, and I'm not really paying much attention, but I'm vaguely aware that it's very quiet. No one's getting off or on. But finally, it stops at this one station, and out of my peripheral vision, I see a young man enter the train, and he sits right in front of me. At that point, I got kind of annoyed because I didn't want anything to distract me from what I was doing. So this young man, he puts his back against the window and puts his feet up on the seat. And so now it's even worse because um, he's partially facing me. So I mean, I don't want him to sort of see what I'm doing or to see any expression on my face or anything. So he pulls his arms up and he's like rubbing the muscle on his forearm, and sort of sighing and looking like he's in pain. So finally, I take my attention away from what I'm doing, and I look at him, and he says, my arms, they're really painful. And he holds them up and he shows me the muscles on his forearm, and they looked like, if you've ever seen a bodybuilder, if you've ever lifted weights, when your muscle gets pumped, it becomes really taut, and you can see veins going through it, and it's pumped full of blood, and that's how his arms looked. And I said, wow. They're swollen. He said, yeah. He said, I mean, I've been working all day blow drying hair. um I work at the salon, and I mean, I've been standing on my feet and I've been blow drying hair all day. And he says, you have to really stretch the hair on the brush when you're blow drying it, and it really works your arms. And I said, wow, you know. I mean, at that point, I didn't respond to him, but I'm thinking in my head, my thoughts are racing like, wow, I mean, an exhausted hairstylist. So he continues to talk to me because I'm not really responding at this point. My mind is like going 1,000 miles a second. And so the whole point of the story, and I don't want this to go over 10 minutes, the whole point of the story is how, what do you think of that? I mean, think about how this young man had to leave the salon at a certain time. He had to walk at a certain pace. you had to get to the station and stand on the platform at a certain spot by a certain time in order to rendezvous with the train that I was on. Now, as he stood there, he stood on the platform between two cars. So both doors opened at the same time, one on the left where I was sitting and one on the right where he would never have crossed paths with me. And I thought about odds and about probabilities and how maybe, as he stood there, it was a 50-50 chance of him going in one door or the other. And I'm wondering if it is at all possible that someone thinking intensely about a subject can cause a person to can change the odds from 50-50 to 49-51, where this young man was just nudged just enough to go in the doors on the left where he encountered me and where we ended up meeting and having a little chat. And if your thoughts do indeed affect outcome. So I know there are a lot of rational people out there, really rational people, excessively rational people out there who are going to say, no, this is just a coincidence, don't be silly, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, it's happened to me more times than coincidence, pure coincidence would suggest. This was the only time where I can't exactly say that. It was the only time where I consciously made a decision to think on something and see what happened. But it's happened times where I didn't intend or set out for it to happen, and it's happened on times where I was conscious of it. So what do you all think about that? I'm eager to hear what you have to say.